here for the party. Trust me, we just getting started. The sound, the vibe, I feel so alive. I'm only here for the party. Trust me, we just getting started.
Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video, as you should have seen from the introduction sequence, is regarding the Celtic FC Women side, the Celtic GHIRLS. And so if you don't follow the Celtic GHIRLS, this video may not be for you. However, there is another video uploading as we speak regarding the thumping Celtic 5-0 win over St Johnstone in yesterday's Scottish Cup semi-final. Takes Celtic through to the final on the 24th of May, and if all goes to plan, Celtic will be winning their 9th treble during my lifetime that afternoon at Hampden Park. So, getting back to this post-match review for the Celtic GHIRLS, they won away game in the post-split top 6 split phase against Motherwell. It was a rather negative performance by Motherwell, trying to get a point out of the game. But in the end, Celtic's players broke them down, and a wonderful free kick by Maria McAneny in the 64th minute won Celtic the game. And after Celtic did score, things did open up more and more, and Celtic had a number of chances later in the game to increase the goals, but they held on for the 1-0 win. And during the video, we'll have a wee look at one or two more other incidents from the game, the stats for the game, and also how that leaves Celtic's standing in the league table halfway through the second phase of the SWPL. And we'll also look briefly at Celtic's last 5 games. And that Celtic still have very faint hopes, and I do stress very faint hopes of retaining the league, but it's going to require 5 wins out of 5 and also a mixture of results, as was the case with the other 4 teams in the top 6. So, as I said, Celtic in the first half huffed and puffed, but didn't really have terribly many good chances at goal. Probably the 2 closest were nice shot by Emma Lawton, and other player who had a good chance to score in the first half was Murphy Agnew, but couldn't quite connect in the box with her goal attempt. And so Celtic went into half-time at 0-0 in the first half. Motherwell really didn't trouble Celtic at all. Kelsey Doherty in the whole game didn't have a single save to make during the whole game, apart from a couple of possible chances from corners and one long distance shot. Motherwell really did not trouble Celtic's defence or Kelsey Doherty in Celtic's goal at all in the whole game. After half-time, Celtic had some further chances, but then a wonderful curling free kick by Maria McAneny right into the corner, completely unstoppable shot, gave Celtic the lead in the 64th minute. That did open things up for Celtic more after that. A couple of good chances for Murphy Agnew again, and Morgan Cross had a very good left foot shot that was well tipped over the bar by the Motherwell goalkeeper. And so the score stayed down at 1-0. However, was a good win for Celtic, gets their very faint title hopes, keeps them going, partly due to the fact that Glasgow City and Hearts drew 0-0, and Hibs, after drawing with Celtic on Wednesday, then beat Rangers 2-0 at Meadowbank, and so Hibs now move back top of the table. And as I've said a few times in recent videos, the fact that Celtic, Hearts, Rangers, Hibs and Glasgow City are all pretty much of the same kind of strength, and all can play well one day and not so well the next day, I think there is still a very faint hope if Celtic do go 5 wins out of 5, which I think is entirely possible, as we do have 3 home games out of those 5. And we get a similar mix of teams taking points off each other, teams beating each other. There is a faint hope that come the final day against Motherwell on the 18th of May, Celtic may have a very faint outside chance of winning the title. However, that's more of a dream than an expectation. Looking at the stats for yesterday's game, possession was 47% to Motherwell, 53% to Celtic. However, Motherwell did have quite a bit of possession but never really used it terribly well. Looking at the shots, Celtic had 14 shots to 3 by Motherwell. Celtic had 5 on targets and 6 off targets. Motherwell no on targets and 2 off targets. Celtic had 3 shots blocked and Celtic blocked 1 Motherwell shot. Kelsey Docherty had no saves to make in the whole game, and their goalkeeper had a good performance, making 4 good saves, and otherwise the score would have been 4 or 5-0, was it not for a good goalkeeping performance, which has been kind of a recurring theme over the whole season, where Celtic's shots on goal are maybe not as accurate and as efficient as they could be and should be, and the opposition goalkeeper has one of their best, if not their best game of the season to thwart Celtic's midfielders and strikers. However, key thing was Celtic did get the win, and that does move them back up to 4th. Looking at the table, after 27 games for all of the top 6, Hibs are top with 64, goal difference plus 62. Rangers second on 62, goal difference plus 105. In third place, Glasgow City Women, 61 points plus 83. Then the GHIRLS, 56 points and plus 65. Hearts also on 56, goal difference plus 60. And Motherwell languishing in 6th place, 32 points minus 13 goal difference. Looking at Celtic's next 5 games. Their next game is a week on Wednesday the 30th April. That's a home game against Hearts, 8 p.m. kickoff. Then they will be playing Glasgow City on the 4th of May. That's an away game. Rangers, 11th of May. That's a home game. Then midweek Wednesday, the 14th of May, an away game at Hibs, ending the season with a home game against Motherwell. I think if there's any possibility that Celtic might have a chance of winning the title, they may well move that final game on the 18th of May, home game against Motherwell, to Celtic Park. Otherwise, it's most likely to be at New Douglas Park in Hamilton. And as you can see, top of the table, it's all rather close. 3 points separating first and third. Celtic 8 points off the top. However, I'm not so sure that Hibs will be able to cope with the pressure in the final 5 games. And so we're in essence 2 wins behind Rangers, 5 points behind Glasgow City. However, if we were to beat both of them and they all take points off each other, there is an outside chance, as I've said a few times, of a very faint hope we can win the title. Other wee thing worthwhile touching on in this video is press conferences done by Kelsey Docherty and Elena Sadiku on Friday. Kelsey Docherty generally quite positive in her press conference. She also was kind of implying that the players take a lot of responsibility, as they have been working well in training, they have been creating their chances, just the midfielders and the attackers haven't been taking the chances, and in defence there's been 1 or 2 wee errors. But Kelsey Docherty trying to be as positive as possible. Elena Sadiku looking for me a wee bit sad and tired. However, trying to be positive, saying they still do have a chance of winning the title, but it would require at that point 6 wins out of 6, and we're 1 win out of 6 along that way. She also was saying that she's having some issues mixing being the head coach and sorting out training and all the drills, etc., plus all the back ground staff of being a manager. And I think she also was kind of implying as when she came to the club, she was told she was going to be the head coach, and a lot of the administrative roles, the hiring, the firing, the contracts, and the player recruitment, etc., was going to be done by others. It does appear that she's been taking on a lot of that role. Both Rangers and Glasgow City have a much better structure in terms of chief executives and managing directors who take over a lot of that role. However, what also is important is that Elena Sadiku has extra backroom staff now, and so I think they do have a better scouting and performance analysis department now than they did 6 months ago, and that hopefully will bear fruit with Celtic's summer recruitment. I think also Lena Sidikou in her press conference was suggesting that they're going to be moving a few players on, maybe one or two older players, maybe choosing this as a good time to retire. And I think also Lena Sidikou was looking to trim her squad by letting a few players move on. I think there may well be a few players whose contract are up in the summer and may well be moving back home to America, Europe, and England. And I do hope over the summer break that Celtic do bring in a few good high quality players, hopefully a few good high quality Scottish players, English and Irish players, as well as adding from Europe where possible. I think also Celtic have made some good signings over this year. I think Emma Lawton, Shannon McGregor, Morgan Cross have all been good, especially Emma Lawton. I think Weston, the Swedish winger, looked a very, very good player. However, unfortunately, she got injured shortly after starting with Celtic. And I think Momo Nakao, the Japanese midfielder, is getting better and better with every game she plays for Celtic. And I think next season she could be a very important player. Different style of player from Shane, who was a key part of our title winning season last year. But I think Momo Nakao could be a very important controlling player in midfield, maybe alongside Shannon McGregor and maybe Colette Kavanagh taking over that midfield enforcer role, although there are a couple of other candidates for that role next season. As I said earlier on, I think there may well be a couple of the older players choosing to retire, a couple of players whose contracts have come to the end who may well choose to leave Celtic and move back home. Will, I think, one way or another be a very interesting summer for Celtic. Does look from what Elena Sadiku was saying in her press conference that she expects still to be at Celtic next season. And I, for one, would be very happy if she does remain at Celtic for another season. I think a manager, head coach who wins the league and gets the team at the first attempt into the Champions League stage, both of which were the first time ever in the history of Celtic's women's side. I think that's a massive achievement. I think she came into Celtic's team at the start of 2024. Celtic were at that point 3 points behind in second place, looking a wee bit downhearted and frustrated. I think the previous couple of games where Fran Alonso clearly had decided to move on. Some of the players at that point looked a wee bit dispirited. I think after a couple of rocky games at the start of her Celtic career as head coach, she turned Celtic around. At one point, Celtic were 6 points behind last season, and Sadiku took them to the title with a very good run of wins and draws, going that final part of the season unbeaten, winning the title with a glorious 1-0 win on a beautiful sunny day at Celtic Park in mid-May, and then took us into the Champions League group stage for the first time ever for Celtic or a Scottish team, with a couple of nice wins over in Lithuania and back-to-back wins over the Ukrainian champions at the Excelsior in Airdrie, our last games there. And then I think also it's important to remember just a couple of months ago in mid-February, Celtic were in a tie with 3 other teams at the top of the league, a 4-way tie for first place. Surprisingly, Celtic's team then went on a poor run, couple of draws and 3 defeats, and Celtic dropped from first to fourth. And so I do think Celtic are a better team than some are saying, and I think also it's important to realise just how strong in comparison Glasgow City, Rangers, Hibs and Hearts are. Hibs and Hearts have made massive progress since last season. Glasgow City are back to the kind of form they have had for the last decade in Scottish women's football, and Rangers maintained continuity of management and squad, and are right up there with Celtic, Hibs, Hearts and Glasgow City for the final last 5 games of the season. So that finishes off this wee review of the last couple of games for the Celtic women's side. For those not yet subscribed to the channel, please do click that subscriber button. Very, very few channels on YouTube are covering the Celtic women's side. And so do click that subscribe button for ongoing coverage of the women's side. And do feel free to pop your own comments into the comment section, keeping things polite, respectful, etc. with regards how you see the Celtic women's side, recent games and the next 5 games and our very faint title hopes. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.